we're living in a new day in terms of ethnicity and pluralistic worldviews. I remember when I was 20 and came to Canada, at that time in the city of Toronto, there were only 500 Indians. Today, if you go to Toronto, there are 500,000 Indians. At that time, if I walked across the street, if I saw another Indian across the street, we'd cross over and chat with each other and ask, where do you come from, and so on, and sit down and go and have a cup of tea and so on. If I did that today, I wouldn't go anywhere. The whole ethnic mix has dramatically changed. Pluralism is a good thing, because it forces you to evaluate your own value system, your own way of thinking. Pluralism is a good thing. Relativism is not. And if you extrapolate pluralism to mean relativistic ethic, therefore there are no absolutes, that's the wrong direction in which to go. And so I would say, take advantage of the opportunity. God moves people. God moves cultures. God moves people with different worldviews. I don't have to go to Damascus, Syria today to talk to a Syrian about what he or she believes. He or she could be my neighbor. And that's a privilege for me. It's a wonderful privilege. And so I would just say the most important thing is avoid any prejudice. What does prejudice mean? Prejudging somebody. You don't prejudge somebody by either the color of their skin or their worldview or whatever, because even though worldviews may be systemic to certain cultures, not every person is totally committed to that worldview. So you must ask that person questions, get to know them, understand them, and you'll always find a point of entry. You'll always find a point of entry. There were times where Jesus did not answer people's questions because he felt they were not ready for it. There is a timing you have to think about, not just the content. And so learn, appreciate, admire, take that which is good in a different worldview. But remember, when Jesus talked about truth, that he was the way, the truth, and the life, it was a most reasonable statement, meaning by that truth will always be exclusive. But that does not mean culturally it is exclusionary. You don't exclude people from within the opportunity to live within a culture just because the truth you claim to believe is exclusive. How you communicate is going to be critical, and remember, all worldviews are exclusive. If they weren't exclusive, they wouldn't be a worldview, they'd just be a hodgepodge and a mix, but they hold to a certain worldview, which means they exclude any other worldview. Get to know them, befriend them, be kind and gentle, and wait for the right time in which to share the good news of the gospel. Every human being has a point of entry, and at that point of entry, when you're there at the right time and do it with the grace of Christ, who doesn't want to be forgiven? Who doesn't want life with purpose and meaning? Who doesn't want to be loved? Who doesn't want to realize that ultimately you want to belong? And this is what the gospel is about. If a person resists it, then the problem is going very deep, and you will have to get to the root of that problem. It could be that they have a prejudice about Christianity, a caricature of it. It could be somebody abused the privilege of telling them the story in a way that ought not to have been told. It could be they are coming from a very dark background of disappointment and hurt and pain. It could be that they have been living through grief in their childhood and wonder where God was in all of that. So God sort of, as I've said in my recent book, even those who believe in Mother Earth, when things go wrong, blame Father God. So God takes the hit one way or the other. Be wise, be sensitive, and remember that at some point everybody will become open to the gospel.